Hi readers, I'm Rachel from Never Enough Novels. Let's talk audiobooks today. I'm sharing a list of books that are fantastic on audio. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't just a list of my favorite romance novels. It takes certain characteristics for a romance story to translate well from the page to your ears. If you're like I used to be, it took a while to actually come around to the idea of audiobooks. I certainly listened to a few duds before I finally found my stride and figured out which characteristics make a book perfect on audio. I found that women's fiction and literary fiction are a bit too slow to listen to on audio, and historical fiction, it really helps to read the words on the page to truly get an idea of the setting, which is so important in those novels. That led me to romance books. So much of what I love about this genre translates really well to audio. Fast-paced narratives, witty back and forth banter, and spicy scenes. Plus, who doesn't want to hear romantic declarations of love actually said out loud? But for a romance audiobook to perform well, it needs to have great narrators and lots of back and forth dialogue within the book. It certainly helps when the narrators actually sound like what you're picturing. Otherwise, it can really take you out of the story if they're different from the descriptions in the book. I've listened to a few audiobooks where the voices were extremely different from what I pictured, and it just kept taking me out of the story and just didn't work for me. I also love when there are more than one narrator, so you get that male or female voice, like both love interests actually have a voice, and you can really hear that back and forth dialogue between the two. The books that I'm sharing today hit all of the right notes. I also want to mention where you can easily find audiobooks. I end up using my library most often through sites like Hoopla, Cloud Library, or Overdrive. You can simply go to your local library's website and find out what options they offer. However, the selection is usually pretty slim, and I sometimes have trouble finding an exact audiobook that I want. It's definitely a lot better if you're just browsing and looking for something that might pique your interest. But it's free, so there are some definite advantages. Or if you're willing to pay, you can use sites like Amazon's Audible or Libro FM. Now, Libro FM is my biggest recommendation because they support indie bookstores everywhere. So every time you make a purchase or participate in their monthly membership, a portion of the proceeds go to support your local bookstore. You can even pick which specific bookstore you want to support. And if you check the description below, I have a link to Libro FM that will get you 2 audiobooks for the price of 1. So I would love to hear if you've used them and maybe pick them over Amazon if you can. You will find links for all the books that I'll be mentioning in this video for both Libro FM and Audible in my description below. Let's get into my recommendations for the best romance audiobooks. First on my list is Well Met by Jen Deluca. Now, this is actually a book that I absolutely love both in page form and in audio form. I just recently listened to it for the first time as a reread, and it turned out to be a fantastic option. Our main character is Emily, and she has just relocated to a small town to help out her sister who was recently in a car accident. As part of her responsibilities, Emily is now carting her niece around everywhere she needs to go for the summer, and that includes practices for the local Renaissance fair. Well, Emily gets roped into volunteering at the Renaissance fair against her will, but she finds she likes the camaraderie and getting to put on an accent and a fancy dress. Everything except for the fair organizer, Simon, who she constantly clashes with. Well, when the fair finally starts over the summer, she spies a sexy, outgoing pirate, and it's Simon. Much to her surprise, he takes on a brand new personality during the fair and becomes this flirty, outgoing, sensual guy. So the two of them spark this great fair relationship for the couple of weeks over the summer. But as time goes on, Emily is really starting to wonder, is there anything more going on, or is this strictly limited to their fair personalities? This book turned out to be absolutely incredible on audio and is a great recommendation for a romance book that you can listen to. The second romance book I have is The Off-Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. This book stars a single mom who returns home to recoup and get some help from her family. And she discovers that her brother's new best friend is insanely attractive and a really nice guy. But they both know that Lucy's brother will flip if he finds out that anything is going on between them. So they agree to keep things strictly in the friend zone. The build-up and tension between Lucy and Cooper was exhilarating. I loved reading how these two danced around their feelings and both wanted something but couldn't do it for the sake of the brother. There were also a lot of bits that included Lucy's son, which were just adorable and so much fun to read. This is one of the first romance books that I actually listened to on audio, and since then I have discovered that anything by Sarah Adams is fantastic and well worth a listen. So she has a great backlist that you can check out, and you are guaranteed to enjoy every one of them on audio. If you're enjoying my book recommendations so far, please hit the subscribe button below so that you get notified about all of my new book lists as soon as they're published. The next book on my romance audiobooks list is actually a discovery from the TV show on Netflix. That is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. This is the first book in the Bridgerton series, and this historical romance translates so well to audio. If you know the Bridgertons, they are a family full of hilarious characters, lots of drama, lots of passion, and you've got 8 books in this series to get through, so the possibilities are endless. The first book focuses on Daphne and Simon. So Daphne is one of the Bridgerton sisters, and they set up this relationship of convenience for the two of them that turns into something far more passionate and real than either of them expected. If you love listening to this on audio, you can check out my channel for an additional video I just posted, which has 10 other books that are similar to the Bridgerton books. Up next on my romance audiobook list is You Had Me At Ola by Alexis Daria. Jasmine and Ashton are our 2 main characters, and they are telenovela stars who have an opportunity to make it big on a streaming service. These 2 are played by 2 different narrators, so it really brings their back and forth dialogues to life. They are given this chance to make their big breaks into mainstream Hollywood, but each is plagued by their own baggage, which is making it difficult for them to form any sort of relationship together. Jasmine has recently been splashed across the tabloids and finds it very difficult to keep anything about her life private. Meanwhile, Ashton is harboring a secret that has made him very cautious about the media, so any connection with Jasmine will just open up the minefield into his private life, which he does not want. They both know the chemistry between them is dangerous, but they can't deny that the attraction just keeps growing. This is also a perfect example where the narrators absolutely matched the descriptions in the book. So again, it just helped bring this book to life and was such a fun listen on audio. Narrator Julia Whelan gives her voice to my next book, Evie Drake Starts Over by Linda Holmes. Now, Julia is well known in the audiobook world and has given her voice to popular authors like Kristen Hanna, V.E. Schwab, Emily Henry, among others. So she is always a guaranteed great narrator if you're looking for someone to follow. Recently widowed Evie is living in her house and needs someone to help out with the rent. Enter Dean, who is a former baseball player struggling to get past the mental aspect of the game. So he's looking for a fresh start, and so is Evie. When Dean moves into the house, they make a deal that they will not talk about any of the difficult parts of their lives. They will keep things on the surface, above board, and light and easy, which is what they both need. But as they continue to live together and interact more and more, they find themselves wanting to share those parts of themselves that are more difficult and more serious. And that leads to a beautiful relationship between the two that has just developed over time and turns into something meaningful for them both. I found it's a pleasant change of pace to listen to a romance about 2 people who have either been already married or just at later stages in their life. We're so used to romance novels being about young people in their 20s or early 30s who have their entire lives ahead of them and very little baggage behind them. A widow and an aging baseball player certainly aren't your usual candidates for a romance novel, but it made the story so much more real and engaging because it had 2 slightly different characters than what we're used to. This story was truly about overcoming their struggles and finding love as an absolute bonus. All right, you fans of the enemies to lovers trope, get ready for this book. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood is my next recommendation for a romance audiobook. It was one of the most popular books on Bookstagram in 2021 for great reason. One of my Bookstagram friends suggested it on audio, so I wanted to share it all with you today. You start going down a wild ride when Olive ends up kissing the first man she sees to appease her best friend, and it turns out to be one of the most well-known jerks that she knows. A sexy scientific romp ensues, which plays out oh so well on audio. Next up, get ready for the Winston brothers. The first book in this series is Truth or Beard by Penny Reed. These bearded brothers are full of charm and charisma, and you will love all of their antics, both romantic and otherwise. In this first book of the series, Jessica is torn between the two Winston twins. Beau has always been her longtime crush. He's the perfect outgoing guy, whereas Dwayne has a reputation for being surly and is always pushing at Jessica's buttons. At least until a case of mistaken identities leaves her questioning what she always thought she liked about Beau and hated about Dwayne. The accents in this one are so much fun, and it certainly made it a blast to listen to, an experience on audio that you won't soon forget. The last book on my list is Act Your Age, Evie Brown by Talia Hibbert. Now, this is the third book in the series, but I promise it works just as well as a standalone novel. Or, if you want to go back and read the first two, I recommend those as well. In the third novel, Eve takes center stage, bringing a whole lot of chaos and a whole lot of sunshine. She ends up taking a job as a chef at a B&B and quickly discovers that she clashes big time with the owner, Jacob. He is her exact opposite, and despite all of his protestations, Eve ends up getting under his skin, and they both discover that there is more to them than meets the eye, and their differences might actually lead to something phenomenal. I laughed out loud at this one so many times, so it was an absolute delight to listen to, and brought the story to life in a way that the page just can't do. I hope you found something in this list that you'll give a try, and if you have any other romance audiobooks to recommend, let me know in the comments.